Wow. Oh, God, what are you doing? The door's wide open, dude.
No, listen, it's not what it looks like.
Not what it looks like? I've been on the internet long enough, buddy. I know exactly what this is.
Please, sir, may I have some more?
Like, at least tell me you guys have a safe word established.
Safe, bro, this is martial training, it's not...
Actually, I'm not really looking for anything long-term right now, but I appreciate the thought.
No, not marital training, like fighting and stuff.
I'm beginning to think this may not be completely consensual. You know, you really need to be asking for consent before engaging in this type of play. Wait, where'd he go?
I miss him already.
That's insane. This guy didn't even bother to stick around for aftercare. Come on, let's get you some ice cream. You like vanilla?
No, not really.
Hi, my name is Rust. I'm a Soulsborne content creator with an emphasis on PvP. One of my favorite things to do in Elden Ring is fish for backstabs, so much so that I've done 3 different videos on backstabs. But even with all the time that I put into fishing, there's always more to learn. But a question that I always get asked is what weapon is best for landing backstabs. So in this video, I'm going to go over the best weapon for landing backstabs and why it's the whip. If you enjoy the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know if the information was helpful to you at all, or if you're just more confused than ever. Let's go over some basic information to start out with. Now, you probably already know this, but whips aren't actually able to perform a backstab themselves. They don't have an animation assigned to it, so if you're trying to backstab with one, you'll just hit the guy. And all other weapons share the same speed of 7 startup frames in order to confirm a grab. So what do I mean when I say that whips are the best weapons for backstabs? Backstabs are all about setup, the way that you position yourself relative to the opponent, and conditioning them to do specific things that you can take advantage of. And whips have a few special properties that make them exceptional for setting up backstabs. But there's 2 types of backstabs that I'll really be focusing on with this video: strafe backstabs and roll-in punishes. A strafe backstab is just using your movement to get around your opponent's hitbox to land the grab. Some weapons are easier to strafe than others, but more experienced players tend to avoid putting themselves into positions to get strafed. Strafe backstabs are generally most reliable against medium weapons that have long recovery and poor tracking, like the HTS running R2 and halberds. But other weapons, like power stance straight swords, are much more difficult to strafe since they have such low recovery on their attacks, allowing them to escape any mistakes they make. For these, I tend to focus on roll-in punishes. If the opponent rolls in toward you, then even if they're locked on, you can land a backstab on them. This requires very precise timing and positioning. The idea here is to predict the roll and position yourself to where you can get the grab as they exit their roll. This has to be done while unlocked and angling your character in the direction that your opponent will be facing as they exit the roll. If you miss the angle or cue the attack too early, then you'll just do a normal R1 instead. If you're too late or position yourself too far behind them as they exit the roll, then your backstab will whiff and the opponent will escape the grab. Whips are an odd category of weapon. They have extremely slow attacks, and their R1s deal damage level 2 stun, similar to great swords, but with much faster recovery than other weapons of that category. This allows whips much better mobility and positioning to reliably land both of these types of backstabs. But most importantly, whips encourage aggression. Passive whip is extremely frustrating to fight against, since they can easily whiff punish reliably and get out of the way before you can do anything about it. A two-handed whip can always poise break, so they can usually punish someone trying to close the gap with a running or jumping attack pretty consistently. So with outspacing and charging in being less viable strategies, opponents will often resort to trying to roll the first attack of the whip to get in close. Then, once they finally get in close to the whip, they generally want to stay that way, so they'll stick to running attacks and jumping attacks to avoid letting them slip out of their range. But this is exactly the type of unhinged aggression that we want from the opponent in order to capitalize on it. Strafing anything in Elden Ring is largely contingent on the latency that you have to the opponent, but it can be made a lot more successful depending on how you set it up. Running attacks are the easiest things to strafe, and whips heavily encourage your opponent to go for them. By saw swapping from the whip, you can cancel the remaining recovery frames of an attack and quickly get back to full sprinting speed so that you can strafe the opponent's attack even on poor latency. As you strafe, it's best to unlock from the opponent so that you can manually set your angle and position before cueing the backstab. The roll-in punish is set up on prediction of a forward roll and can either come from neutral or if your opponent cues a roll out of hit stun, but it's definitely easiest to set up if you can get them in hit stun first. The stun duration of a whip is the same as a greatsword, and with a short recovery, you can easily set yourself into position to get a backstab. Just be careful not to get too close in case your opponent decides to attack out of hit stun. Once you land your hit, saw swap to Misericord to cancel remaining recovery frames of your attack animation, walk into the position that you want them to roll, and then circle back to the side to catch them as they exit their roll. This is harder to do from neutral because you have to anticipate when the opponent will panic roll and position yourself accordingly to it, but the more you practice with it, the better you'll get. Not only does WHIPS set up great opportunities to get a backstab, it has a number of options of wake-ups to really seal the deal and ensure that the opponent goes down. The fully charged R2 on a Rumi is a great option, having a built-in frame trap and exceptional range that hits very reliably. And I really can't understate just how powerful Lightning Ram is as a wake-up, aside from being assertively funny. There's a lot of mechanics, intricacies, and really cool techniques that you can use to set up backstabs, and I highly recommend that you check out some of my other videos on them. Backstabs are a core piece of my playstyle, and I'm always trying to find new and creative ways to get a grab. If you have any cool ideas that you think I should try out, let me know in the comments. From this point in the video will be a showcase of the concepts covered in the video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into the fights. For these fights I'll be using my dex build with Rumi and Offhand Fist. Offhand Fist, Dagger, and Katana all work very well with Rumi as a way of keeping people from being able to repeatedly mash out a hit stun if you just alternate between R1 and L1. But you really won't be seeing me do much of that in these clips because I really want to encourage my opponents to rush me, not force them out. We can quickly see that my opponent's strategy is to react roll the whip and roll toward me to close the gap. I land a hit and they roll in out of hit stun, giving us the grab. Then I go for the fully charged R2 on wake up to finish the fight. My next opponent comes out with a halberd, and as the fight starts out, we can note that he's not exclusively rolling forward like the last opponent. This guy's more keen to try and work with his range and to try and outspace the whip to get in close. As we both whiff, I swap over to Misericord to cancel the recovery of my attack, and strafe anticipating another running attack from him, giving us the grab. I goat roll for the wake up, but I forget that you have to trigger the L2 twice to keep the roll going, so I stop prematurely. I outspace the jumping R2, but fucked around too much and get hit by the next running attack. I avoid the next, and then land a couple more hits to finish the fight. My next opponent is using a very unique setup of main hand scythe, offhand heavy thrust, and sword. I want to see how he's going to play to start off with, and immediately he goes for 2 offhand attacks straight out of hit stun. He catches me off guard, so I back off, land another hit, and then start a strafe expecting that he'll probably continue to hold forward, circle around the scythe, and then get a grab to finish the fight. My next opponent starts off the fight, Naruto running to the side and then changing directions, heading straight for me. I don't know how I could have predicted this, but I got the sense that he was going to do a running attack. I land a hit, and then he reveals Bloodhound Step. It takes some chip, but I'm able to avoid a series of attacks and land another hit to force him off. I reset my talisman so that I'm back to full health, and land a fully charged R2. At this point, they're one hit away from death, and they're using the Bloodhound Step very randomly, running in all directions, not really giving me a clear feed that I can set up a grab for. But at this point, I really want the backstab. So I get my Misericord ready to start off with, knowing that I'll have to look for him to either roll or Bloodhound Step forward if I want to get a grab on anything. And I start baiting him in. We catch him on a whiff, circle behind and grab his back as he panic rolls forward to finish the fight. My next opponent starts off the fight with a running attack and quickly reveals that he is another Bloodhound Step enthusiast. We back off, line up a hit, and land another. From there, we line up the forward roll and get the grab as they roll past. I drop the input on swapping back over to the whip, but I try and go for the fully charged R2 anyway, which doesn't connect. I fail to space the halberd and decide to end the fight with the best dash of war in the game. The next fight starts off strong as my opponent attempts to punish my emote with a JR2, but they pivoted at the beginning of the round, so I get away unharmed. As the first hit of the whip lands a phantom hit, we can quickly see that we have very poor connection, being somewhere around 200 milliseconds. My opponent seems content playing at range, not trying to roll in or get too close. We take a trade, and I predict him to continue to hold forward, so I handy tech to get early access to get to full sprint, and line up a grab. Knowing how high the latency is, I don't go for a wake up since my opponent will likely be able to roll out of anything that I go for, and instead take the time to fix my talismans. He decides to go for a heal, and since I disengaged too far, I'm too late to punish it. So back to neutral. My opponent goes for a jumping R2, which falls short, and I set up a fully charged R2 which catches him on a panic roll. Does it look like that should have landed? Hell no, but I'll take it. My next opponent is using PSGS, and we spend the majority of the match just playing footsies, neither of us wanting to be the first to aggress. If I throw out a random attack and they roll in, then I'll have to escape a vortex, but they don't want to push forward and have to avoid getting checked from neutral. So we're sort of at a stalemate. At a point, they try and close in, but start panic rolling, so I judge the distance and set up a grab as they roll past. I go for a fully charged R2, which doesn't connect, roll their hit, and then finish the fight with my superior rolling attack. My next opponent comes out with power stance straight swords, and we manage to start off the fight with a lucky roll catch, avoid some hits, and quickly establish that he's going to be rolling in. I set up a grab, but I'm positioned too far behind him, so I miss the grab, and we manage to escape most of the L2. We land another quick jab from the whip, and get better positioning this time to get the grab. I go for the fully charged R2 on the wake up, which he's able to avoid, and finish the fight with a goat roll. I had never played with whips until this point. I fucking hate fighting them. Their entire game plan is whiff punish and run away until they can whiff punish again. It's pretty goddamn annoying, but I can't deny that they force me to roll toward them. With the arena as large as it is, it's hard to find a player that's willing to roll toward you when you're using other weapons. Most people just mash out a hit stun or panic roll to the edge of the arena, and you can't really backstab someone who never approaches you. I've seen some other stuff that works pretty well for baiting aggression, and most of it's mage related, not really my thing, but give me your suggestions in the comments and I'll try it out. Until then, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.